Contextualized in a fictional version of Taisho, Japan, 1940, Sakura Wars is a reboot of the popular series of the same name. In this mostly visual novel, part simple hack-and-slash game, Kamiyama Seijiro is tasked with the revolutionizing of the now defunct Flower Division. This is New Sakura Wars. The series, Sakura Taisen, or Sakura Wars, is developed and published by Sega, starting from 1996, which spanned 5 games until 2005. There were also various movies and animations. In Sakura Wars 2019, it serves as a soft reboot which links to the first 4 games of the series. At present, Sakura Taisen 5 and Sakura Wars 2019, or New Sakura Wars, is the only 2 games to have official ports to the West. Unfortunately, this serves as a roadblock to further enjoyment of the series, though you can play the first game on Dreamcast with an English patch. As for the chronology in this series, the first 4 games, Sakura Wars 1, 2, 3 and 4, all follow the same main cast in a fairly standard time frame, and all take place in Tokyo in the early 1920s. This is key because this is where 2019 Sakura Wars reboots heavily and links to the story. Unlike Sakura Wars 5, which takes place elsewhere in New York. At present, I've only played the reboot of Sakura Wars and intend to play the 1996 game whenever possible, as I am interested in the original story of which the 2019 game is based off of. Unfortunately, with the other 3 games not having functional English patches, they will have to wait. The story of New Sakura Wars is, as previously stated, partially linked to the original, and many throwbacks to the fans of the original in regards to characters, location, and even music. It takes place in 1940 Japan, in a very different timeline in which demons, some degrees of magic, and steampunk technology coexist in a fairly cordial world. Each city is outfitted with a combat review, which are effectively rapid response teams using miniature mech-like constructions called the Kobu, and are responsible for dealing with many kinds of threats, but during peace times, these same groups of defenders are renowned for serving their population in arts of culture. The Tokyo Combat Review is one such group, in which our main character Seijiro Kamiyama has arrived to overlook. The Tokyo Combat Review operate from a theatre in which they do plays and such when not defending Tokyo on the ground. However, we swiftly learn that the Tokyo Combat Review is not in the former state of glory it once was, and the new cast and high standards set by the previous crew, featured in the first 4 Sakura War games, make it a difficult time. With the arrival of Seijiro Kamiyama from his naval post, he is tasked to get them back on their feet, and is greeted by a range of fundamental issues, ranging from fundamental issues such as financial deficits, to clumsy acting skills on behalf of the girls making up the theatre. From here you would take part in the gameplay and visual novel sections on your journey to restoring the Tokyo theatre to its former state, but also dealing with the looming threat. As broadly mentioned earlier, Sakura Wars can be categorized into a visual novel and a mecha-orientated gameplay section. The visual novel section is simple enough but forms the basis of the enjoyment and the attachment to the game for the player. Whilst the many dialogue choices don't directly affect the outcome of the story, they serve to be a sometimes humorous option for the players to rudimentarily explore if they feel like it. Choices can be either presented in a normal Select 1 format, or can be presented in a way of how passionately you want to say a particular statement. Alongside this, there are point-and-click investigative parts in which you may investigate someone's room or a person. This is much like Ace Attorney, where you click on certain parts and get dialogue based off of that. This seems like a pretty good time to mention that this game is also part dating sim, so do watch out for that. Although these sections are quite rare, you will run into them, so prepare yourself. The visual novel section is the brunt of the enjoyment and the attachment of the game for me. The script and the characters are masterfully written, and their uniqueness is immediately present, though they don't have to be necessarily obnoxious either. Each character is well unique in all of their parts, whether it be their visuals, hair colour, style, outfit, voice, hobbies, goals or backstories. And it makes for a really colourful cast among your review, as well as the many NPCs you encounter throughout the game. Like many Japanese games, Sakura Wars achieves a strong balance between comedic and serious aspects in their games, being able to swiftly switch from a comedic episode to a serious character arc, which makes the writing engaging and funny to observe, as you get to know the characters and face the trials and tribulations with them throughout the game. I wish there were more impactful choices and more obscure choices within the Sakura Wars games. I think there could be some great potentials if NPCs were better responsive to your prior choices or ways of acting. In either case, the choices, whilst not necessarily deep, still provide a level of comedy and sate player curiosity in a minor way. Another strength of Sakura Wars is the number of optional interactions which exist in the exploration section of the game, being encouraged to explore due to the collectibles which spawn around the map, but also the optional events which are hilarious to observe a lot of the time. These are cleanly presented on the map, so it doesn't require a hastier trek around the playable area every time you load in. What deserves a minor mention, which surprised me, is the Koi Koi game integrated within Sakura Wars, allowing you to battle with most of the game's NPCs as you progress through the main story. Koi Koi is a Japanese game about picking up cards present on the table using your own hand to do so. You can only pick up cards on the field in your turn, and you must match them with a card in your hand which has the same suit as the one you want. Luckily, Sakura Wars will give you all the options and compatible card pairs, so this won't be an issue to learn. Throughout your turn, you are allowed to place one card down, whether it be a grab and pair up with another, or just place it down if you can't pair it up. And then another card is drew, which will automatically get paired with a card on the table, if possible. This allows you to risk putting a valuable card down in the hope of drawing and collecting it next. This means you can potentially pick up to 4 cards a turn, or if you have none to pair, putting down 2 cards a turn. In either case, your goal is to fulfill a number of criteria which will give you points depending on how difficult they were to form, which usually comes from the number of cards and how rare those cards were. This creates a level of strategy as you need to observe what's on the field, what your opponent has collected and what your opponent may have and what you have in your hand. Then you can act with a degree of risk and luck in collecting as many points as possible. After fulfilling one win condition, you may end the round there to claim your points, or you can call Koi Koi if both sides have a card in their hand. This will allow you to keep playing and it gives you the potential to rack up even more win conditions. However, if the opponent wins before you, then they get the ability to call Koi Koi, or the ability to cash in their points, which will make you lose your own. I sing high praises for this game because it serves as a fantastic medium for enjoying the music and having a break from other sections of the game if it was required, and I highly suggest you take the time to learn it. This is easy as you can access the guide, lists of win conditions, types of cards throughout the round. It can be fun once you learn the basic win conditions you need, much like how Mahjong is annoying until you really get to learn the basic Yaku, or the basic win conditions. Whilst that is the major part of the visual novel gameplay out of the way, the other part is the Mecha Combat, which, like previous Sakura Wars titles, is simplistic but spectacular to watch. Its lack of depth means it efficiently conveys the story being told, but also its beauty makes it look very cool, especially in the action sequences. Its relatively short and occasional combat sections serve to break down the game, just like Koi Koi does, and it serves as a break from text reading and allows you to experience the combat sequences in a more engaging way than just reading them. During these action sequences, the Kobu, or the mechs you ride, have a couple of combos which smoothly chain together in a visual symphony of destruction. Alongside this, each character has different moves, strengths, ranges, and a flashy super move which allows you to change the way you play within a level. Alongside this you have some other basic mechanics such as dodging, which gives iframes and slow motion afterwards to punish the enemy, sprinting and wall running in certain areas. It makes for a good break or distraction in changing the storytelling format whilst also keeping the hype. Whilst I wouldn't reject any form of gameplay improvement or complexity increase, it doesn't necessarily need it, and it fits its function well. The OST in New Sakura Wars is to be praised, both the vocal tracks and the non-vocal tracks for character themes. The character themes are extremely catchy, but they also well represent the character that they are attached to. The vocal themes throughout the game, especially from chapter 4 onwards, really represent each particular group and faction that you will meet within the game, and the composer did a very good job in representing this in songs. My biggest criticisms or improvements I would like to see within Sakura Wars or within another title is the larger range of dialogue options and dialogue manipulation. Since the game heavily relies on its storytelling and social aspects, I feel like making it more molded to the player would be more beneficial. Amazing writing would be combined with this well, and expanding this would be beneficial in the long run. Additionally, more interesting minigames within the dialogue to show your own character and contribution would be cool also. Finally, an expansion on the combat system to possibly make it less brain dead might be beneficial also. Right now you cut through a horde of demons and then fight a main boss. Also, this isn't foundationally bad for a game of this type, as I've mentioned. If there was a more epic showdown and more systems just for the bosses, it would be awesome and it would really raise the stake. The combat is very samey, and even fighting a boss makes the gameplay very stale. You could potentially make some epic boss fights and clashes, especially in rival factions and established bosses. Overall, the main strengths of New Sakura Wars come from the attachment to characters, story and their interactions. You shouldn't come in expecting an in-depth, high-octane game, a slow burn story which is comparable to watching an anime. Each character is well developed and likeable in their own regards, all whilst not obnoxiously falling into their anime stereotypes. Whilst the side content sometimes ventures into this territory, it's not to an annoying extent. I have high praises for the soundtrack, especially some of the themes for the main characters, and the opening which I believe is derived from the first game on the Dreamcast. The gameplay is solid enough in its visual sections and outside of its visual sections, but don't expect any groundbreaking content and instead treat it as a shift in storytelling format. As a result, I'd highly recommend you check out at least Sakura Wars 2019 and potentially go into the other ones if you enjoy those. Thanks for watching, and I hope you try out Sakura Wars because it was a very surprising game when I picked it up on sale for the PS5.